Welcome to the Unlist. Today I want to talk about women perfumers in history because I feel like a lot of times, especially with a online fragrance community that is so male-centric, male-focused, and just look at Fragrantica, look at Reddit, look at who watches and makes the bulk of fragrance YouTube videos, okay? It's guys, 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 guys. We tend to focus so much on the male heroes of perfumery, right? The people like Vincent Roubert or Edmond Brunitska, Pierre Bourdon, okay, Jean-Claude Elena, any of the Guerlains that we forget. There are quite a few female perfumers who've had tremendous impact, not just in making perfumes for women, but also for guys and also just in general fragrances, whether unisex marketed or gendered or not, okay? There are a lot of women in perfumery, and I'm not trying to suggest there's anything like misogyny going on or anything like chauvinism, but we just tend to turn a blind eye to it. Maybe it's benign, but can still be problematic because it leaves out a lot of people who make a lot of good fragrances that are worth bringing up, worth discussing. So I am grabbing my flashlight and shining it on the women perfumers of the industry, of our hobby, of it all, okay? Now, I'm going to try to go in rough chronological order, but I might miss some and have to backpedal. And I'm only going to name compositions that I've smelled and I know and I enjoy. So if I mention one of your favorite women perfumers and I leave out your favorite composition by said perfumer, you can just mention it in the comments section below. It's fine, not a big deal, not a deal breaker. But the overall point is to celebrate the women in the perfume industry, the women who make the art as good as it is. And I'll mention a few indies as well, some that have unfortunately passed away, but I'll mention them as well, all right? All the ladies are going to get mentioned that I can think of in this video, all right? They deserve some kudos. They deserve a round of applause. They deserve respect. And I'm going to try and give it to them in this video. So some of the earlier perfumers that I've known that were women, a lot of them have made fragrances that are all, for the most part, gone now, with the exception of a few. They're discontinued. You know, one of the earliest ones I can think of is Germaine Cellier. And she is responsible for things like Jolie Madame by Pierre Balmain. She's responsible for things like Bandy by Robert Piguet. Okay, she's made a lot of good stuff. Her fragrances tend to focus on more floral green accords. She also plays around with some fruity notes. But by and large, she is mostly remembered for her leathers, her extremely green fragrances. Okay, and of course, the big one, the love child of them all, is Bandy by Robert Piguet, one of the more iconic leather fragrances of the 40s, of the immediate post-war period. Actually, 1940, maybe it was still during World War II. I think it was 44, maybe? Yeah, 1944, I believe. Could be 45, but it's right up there, man, right at the line. But obviously, it was more enjoyed after World War II than during, right? It's only going to make sense. But Bandy by Robert Piguet definitely put respect on Germaine Cellier's name, okay? Another one doesn't get a whole lot of talk because she only really made one fragrance that I know of, at least one fragrance bearing her namesake, and that's Mary Dunhill. Mary Dunhill is responsible for the original Dunhill cologne from 1934 because Alfred Dunhill, her brother, was a tobacconist, and he wanted to branch out into having fragrances because he wanted something that his tobacco customers could buy and wear. They already had gloves, small leather goods and such, so they wanted to have a perfume, and she was a studying perfumer. I don't know if she had a career that was documented outside of her one fragrance for Dunhill, but the original Dunhill cologne, later renamed Dunhill for Men, was made by Mary Dunhill, all right? Alfred Dunhill's sister. And Again, a lot of you guys love that fragrance. I know I love it. So it deserves some respect. It's a very classic, again, a leather fragrance. Classic leather fragrance. Has aldehydes. Has a lot of orange, okay? Has some interesting barbershop notes, some clove running through it. Little specks of lavender. Bit creamy, but then it boils down to that isobutyl-quinoline / moustasac style leather base that also is shared with Bandy as well. Very good fragrance. Then, of course, Josephine Catapano, famous IFF, International Flavors and Fragrances perfumer. Josephine Catapano did a lot of things for Estee Lauder, including the house launching Youth Dew from 1953, which Youth Dew is sort of like an animalic sheep Ducote on steroids. Okay, take the basic sheep structure that sheep Ducote has and inject more patchouli in it, add some amber notes into it, okay, put more civet in it, make it this really massive semi-oriental hornball of a fragrance. Would not feel out of place in like a Saudi souk or something like that, okay, or any kind of Middle Eastern perfume house establishment. It would not feel out of place in a perfume shop like that, you know, in Dubai, Qatar, somewhere like that. But it was made by an Italian working in New York for Estee Lauder. Fantastic fragrance. Of course, Josephine Catapano did much more than that. She would later do Cinnabar and would at least lend her hand to JHL, its male counterpart, although Bernard Shawn is more responsible for that. Yeah, very good perfumer, okay? She's done a lot of stuff, a lot of Lauder stuff, all over the place. I think her mastery of amber accords are probably her biggest strength. The thing I remember the most about Josephine Catapano was definitely her amber accords. She was very good with that. And of course, moving to the 80s, right? We're whisking through the 20th century pretty fast. There are other female perfumers that were around in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, I'm sure. Francois Caron, okay, she contributed very early on to Hermes with the Hermes Eau de Cologne in '79. She also did the, not successful, but it's revered by us collectors, the Un Homme by Charles Jourdan was another Francois Caron creation. At the time, she was married to Pierre Bourdon, so I guess she was Francois Bourdon, but then she, divorced and I guess remarried somebody else, or Caron could be her maiden name, I don't know. But Akiko Kamei is another one. She was saddled with Richard Fraisse, who would eventually become the house perfumer of Caron, speak of the devil. Unrelated though, Francois Caron's not related to because Caron, the perfume house, was not based on a family name anyway. It was Ernest Daltroff founded that house. But anyhow, I digress. Kiko Kamei was instrumental in creating Le Troisième Homme, aka the Third Man, right? Number 3. But yeah, there's a lot of perfumers that did stuff in that time period. But I think if you want to talk about game-changing, right? One of the more game-changing perfumers, I think, among women would be Sophia Grojsman. And the thing about her is Sophia Grojsman doesn't get a lot of attention from guys because she doesn't make any men's perfume. Sophia Grojsman has not made a single perfume for the male market in her entire long career, okay? From stuff like, let's see, white linen, all the way up to modern day stuff. She also did a lot of things for Estee Lauder. She did Beautiful, Spellbound, did some things for Calvin Klein as well. She did the original Eternity, all right. Calyx by Prescriptives, a brand owned by Lauder, eventually would be retired, and Calyx would move over to, I think, Clinique. But the thing about Sophia Grojsman is she stayed in her lane, okay? She, for whatever reason, just didn't have a taste for making men's perfumes, all right? And it's fine, There are guys who don't make any women's perfumes. They've only made men's stuff, right? So it works both ways. She doesn't have to make something for you guys, all right? She just wants to make fragrances for the feminine market. She can. And Well, all of them have been bangers, right? They've all been complete knockouts. They've all been very successful. And even though I don't like using the word banger because it's overused, a lot of you dude bros use it incessantly, like you've got it on a button, banger, 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 banger. I have to admit, in her case, it's true. All right, Eternity, beautiful, white linen, okay, all that stuff. Very successful in the 80s, in the 90s. And perhaps Tresser by Lancome, okay, another one. Very big fragrance for her. And the thing about Sophia Grojsman is her Hug Me accord, which was an accord built out of aroma chemicals. I don't know the exact composition of those aroma chemicals, but they create a very warm, plush, soft, diffuse effect that becomes the hallmark of her fragrances. Then, of course, you've got some people like Patricia de Nicolai, the could have been heiress to the Guerlain throne, right? This is where you guys can claim a bit of misogyny if you want to, a bit of patriarchy here, because it's valid. It's backed up with historical documents. She was the only person, you know, generationally that could have inherited the Guerlain dynasty, because Jean-Paul Guerlain's one son that he had went into law, didn't have any other kids that wanted to become perfumers, right? So there wasn't anybody. There wasn't a cousin. There wasn't a nephew. Nobody. So her last name was not Guerlain because she was married into another family, okay? But she was the next of kin. However, because it is always passed from male to male, and I'm thinking Guerlain, for whatever reason, wanted to keep that look, right? They didn't want to give it to a woman, which is, like I said, there's some controversy there. She was snubbed. She was not given a chance to maybe hyphenate her last name, right? Append Guerlain onto it, assume the mantle. So she was snubbed by Jean-Paul, and what did she do? She launched her own perfume house, right? She launched Parfums de Nicolai in the late 80s. Fantastic fragrances, okay? So one of the more popular ones among guys is the New York fragrance, which has an intense version now, by the way. But very classic. In effect, a continuation of what Guerlain could have been, right? But wasn't to be. And her fragrance house has since been renamed Nicolai Perfumery Creator. It's not called Parfums de Nicolai anymore, but it's the same house. And her stuff is fantastic, all right? Cannot be understated. Now, another one, not necessarily a perfumer, okay, but I'm giving her honorable mention because she did help create perfumes, is Annie Catal, the pianist and model who decided to launch into perfumes. She was more of a creative director, granted, because she wasn't a perfumer herself, but her line has some amazing things that really deserve more attention than they get. Another one of a similar stripe would be Anne Gottlieb, another creative director type, not a perfumer, although she is trained as a perfumer and can do perfuming. She's done a couple of compositions. She's done something for Avon called Avon Legacy, 1988. And I believe there's another thing out there, one or two things that have her named as perfumer that she's done. So Anne Gottlieb is technically a perfumer, but she's more of a creative director. In a similar way that Sylvain Delacourt was a creative director at Guerlain, but also got her hands dirty and did some stuff alongside Thierry Vassa and whoever else at that time. Now, others, Anne Byzantine. Anne Byzantine has got a lot of conjoined credits, but she is also half of the team responsible for Tommy, based in '94. Alberto Morillas and Byzantine together made Tommy. One of her fragrances I really enjoy, doesn't get any real attention, but I enjoy it, would be the Izod fragrance from 2008. Okay, it's a very good, sort of aquatic-y kind of thing. woody dry thing, ozonic. Really clunky bottle though, but it's not her fault. She just made the perfume. But very good fragrance. There's also a controversial fragrance with her name on it. The Donald Trump fragrance for men that came out in 2004. I like the fragrance. I can forgive the name on the bottle and the attempt by Estee Lauder to market a Trump fragrance. Well, the story behind that, as I've said, Estee Lauder, New York business. Trump Towers, also New York business. Everybody was rubbing elbows, okay? Everybody's rubbing elbows. So politics aside, all that aside, he was real estate, she is cosmetics. They run in the same circles because they're all in New York. So he got Lauder to make his fragrance, and thus it was. And Anne Byzantian created the formula, and it's a good fragrance. You know, if you don't like the name, you can decant it into another bottle and then lie and say that it's called something else. I don't care. Just the juice is good, though. Then you've got Annick Minardo. And Annick Minardo is perhaps best known for black, right? Bulgari black. But she's also done a lot of stuff, okay? In fact, she's probably one of the more prolific women perfumers out there because of all the stuff she's done. And her style is very varied style, okay? Variegated, if you want to get a fancy word put in there. So, you can't say she is anything if not versatile, all right? But her rubbery, smoky accords, like the one that turns up in Bulgari Black, something to speak of right there. And of similar stripe, you know, from that same time period, we've got Olivia Jacobetti. Olivia Jacobetti, messed that up, but Olivia Jacobetti, she does very good incense accords. She did some stuff for Penhaligon's back in the day. She did a fragrance that was sadly discontinued, but it was a very incense rose fragrance by Penhaligon's, very good. But I think most of her work that people remember is her L'Artisan Parfumerie work, right? So stuff like the Zing, for example, Smells Like Circus, the Zing, Food Absinthe, right, 2006, better version of Polo to some people. She likes to play with aromatics. She likes to play with incense, pine. That's her thing, guys. He's very sort of effusive, sort of dry, bracing, but very aromatic, bright accords. She likes to play with that stuff, okay? Very good at it, too. Very, very good at it. Calice Becker. Calice Becker is kind of like the second coming of Germaine Cellier because she loves green notes. She loves leather. And Calice Becker has done a couple things, including restructure some Lancôme fragrances, okay? She's also done restructures of other classic fragrances. She restructured Vent Vert, which is another Germaine Cellier fragrance. Speak of the devil. Vent Vert was created by Germaine Cellier, again for Balmain, and Calice Becker was brought in to redo it. Couldn't have picked a better perfumer to redo Vent Vert. A lot of you out there, you snobs, right? You snobs that you hate reformulations. Well, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. Calice Becker's version of Vent Vert is very good, and it's so much better than Nathalie Feisthuer's version, which came out later on. That version I didn't like, but I liked Calice Becker's version. And then, of course, Mathilde Laurent, the house perfumer for Cartier, okay? She's done a lot of great stuff. A lot of great stuff. I can name off a whole bunch of hers, okay? All really good stuff. So, but her thing is, I will always like her for her grasp of spicy notes, her grasp of florals, the way she plays with patchouli and cedarwood. So, like a lot of her stuff, okay? Like what she did with Roadster and Roadster Sport. Sadly, they weren't popular, though. They got discontinued, but I like that work, okay? Liked her entries in the Declaration series so far, including the Cologne, the Parfum, the Dunsoir, okay, all good stuff. L'Envol was very tasty, all right? She's done a lot of interesting things with the oud range they have. And then, of course, Christine Nagel, right? Can't go without mentioning her. Christine Nagel, another one who plays with green accords. Christine Nagel is another one to watch if you like green stuff. She did some Cartier things in the early 2000s that were very good. the Eau de Cartier fragrances, the first two, the original and the concentrate. I prefer the concentrate. She loves violet leaf, okay? She loves violet leaf. She loves galbanum. She loves dry green eucalyptus notes. Loves them, loves them, loves them. Okay, she did some Lalique stuff, okay? She did the Homage L'Homme. She did that fragrance too. All right. She's done a lot of Hermes stuff that's really good. Gallo de Hermes, very good. Okay. She's done some of the good colognes. Citron Noir. Eau de Balisic Poupery. I guess I'm saying that incorrectly, but it's really good fragrance. You know, she's done the recent Terre de Hermes flankers. The Vetiver flanker, very nice. All right. H24 is her baby. I love me some H24. I love the original. I love the Herbes Vives. Not too keen on the Eau de Parfum though, but it's okay. It's okay. But I like her work there too. Very good. Now, we can talk about some indies, right? Right? I'm sure there's plenty others that I haven't covered. This video is not exhaustive. It's not exhaustive. But Vero Kern, I've got to mention, you know, posthumously, rest in peace. Vero Kern was a very, very influential artisanal perfumer, and sadly, she left us. She was already kind of old when she got started. This was more of a, you know, a late life project for her. It wasn't really a career choice, but she left her mark, and she will be missed. And her perfumes, which ones that still survive, are out there. But she had a very strong fixation on classic accords. She liked basically doing classic perfumery. So those of you who love your vintages, right, you will like her stuff. And, you know, there you go. There are a lot of ladies who do a lot of wonderful perfumes. Okay, I've mentioned some of the ones off the top of my head that I can think of. Some of my favorite work by them, which, by the way, my favorite Callis Becker work, I never mentioned, is an Avon fragrance. I know, you'd be surprised. Callis Becker did some Avon stuff. A lot of these industry perfumers also do Avon stuff. But she did a fragrance called His Story in 2003. Green, grassy, leather, petrol leather, violet, green notes, pyrrolone. Very nice fragrance, Swede kind of leather note in it. Not her most famous work, because again, it's Avon. But of all the Callis Becker stuff I've smelled, that's the one for me. It's the one I will always wear, always reach for, always remember. All right, there you guys go. It's my homage to women in perfume. Been a lot of really good ones. I guess we could say Jo Malone, again, like Annick Gottal. Jo Malone's more of a creative director than a perfumer. I'm not a fan of Jo Malone's work, but I don't want to disrespect anybody. If you like Jo Malone, it's great. I can respect her accomplishments, but her style is not me. The 1-2 note punch or 3-note punch or solo floor thing that she does, not really my speed, you know, not really my bag. But outside of that, there are lots of women in perfume, and a lot of them do really good jobs, and they really, really deserve, you know. Another one that you should keep your eye on is Cécile Zarkonian. Cécile Zarkonian, she's getting up there. She did a lot of good stuff for Jacques Fath. She reconstructed Green Water, did a good job with that too, by the way. That version of Green Water is pretty good. Not my favorite. I like the older ones better, but hey, she gave it a good college try, and it turned out all right. So again, she's got some good stuff in the pipe that you should keep your eye on her as well. Like I said, my homage to women in perfume. This has been The Unlist. Thanks for watching.